What is up, dudes, dudettes, and all the beautiful people of the interwebs? You know what time it is? It is Saturday. So it's time to join the Smash podcast. And boy, do we got a show for you. It's been a good time. I've been out most of this week from a lot of the stuff that I do, recovering from an operation, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better. So I had to be back because the day has finally come. Reckoning has arrived, and we have gotten the movie that everyone has been waiting for the past 2 years. Well, we've known it's been coming for the past 10. And I got to tell you, there's been a lot of positive news and a lot of very mixed and polarizing opinions. So we're going to see if this is worth all the hype everyone talks about and give our impressions about it. And I got to tell you, the people on the panel today are some amazing people and people that we've been trying to get on here for a while. So, let's get into this, man. Of course, over here with the usual suspects, we have our boy Operation, the man with no plan. What's going on, Op?
What's up, everybody? Just finished watching the new episode of My Hero Academia early on, and before that, finished reading the manga. But no one wants to join me on that.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. I heard Blade just finished new episodes. What was it? Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah, I just finished watching My Hero and Tokyo Ghoul, and
nice.
Dude, it's getting so good. I'm loving it, bro. So amazing.
But I gotta start that one up too because I'm just too busy gaming. But just been chilling.
I'm right there with you. I've been stuck on that Tomb Raider, man. After the new announcement, I've been back on it.
I need to go through what was it, survival mode that happened in Rise of the Tomb Raider? Or no, Expedition. I have to try that out too.
Yeah. Now, on our guests here today, we have our returning unusual suspect. He's been roasted and hosted. It's the man himself, Mr. Mighty Moss. What's up, Dr. Spreadsheets?
What's up, peoples? It's your boy MM2K back again. Hey, I apologize. I'm too lazy right now. I'm about to shut this window because I live by like the busiest highway on the Northeast Atlantic. Back again, man. My favorite podcast for the weekend. I love you guys, and I'm very honored to be here with the other guests. But I'm going to shut my mouth. And we're ready to talk. So we're ready to talk some nerd stuff. Big time.
Oh yeah, definitely. We got some good stuff here to talk about today, man. I'm excited. It's good to have you back on. I know you've been wanting to come. And now our new arriving superstar guest. Me and him have been talking about this for a while, and he's waited for this day particularly over the past few months of when to come out. And this is the one he wanted to hear. It's the man from the media himself, Mr. Avers from G4G. What's going on with you, buddy?
Nothing much, man. It's just a great time to finally be on here. Like you said, we've been talking about this for how many months now? Like three or 4 months?
Since January, because we were talking about some of the announcements for anime way back then for the spring season and stuff. And you're just like, I want to come out for Infinity War. We got to wait because we started talking again after Black Panther.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, we're doing kind of half of it right now, and then the other half next week. So I'll be back then as well. Excited to get into this. Going to try my best to dance around as much as I can with you guys on some of these topics, especially the big ones. So ready to go.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I know we're all trying to dance around it, not be the spoil sports. Because, like I said, man, it's the day after the movie. We don't want to be the crew that immediately starts spoiling everything. We ain't rude like that.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm about to be quiet.
Yeah. I was about to say.
I don't know if I'm dance around this.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have to be quiet after your last time with Black Panther. You got in trouble hard.
Too excited for that. But I learned my lesson.
Yes, sir. But that was a fun time. You knew after that, you're just like, well, I can't say anything anymore. Everyone's gonna hate me.
When the movie drops, I'm just like, radio silent unless I'm giving my praise, and that's it. Cut off right there.
So true. But man, this week has been a very interesting week and a good time, man. Like there was so many new trailers coming out for stuff that we've been set up and waiting for. And some of them have gotten some really good opinions. Some of them have been kind of been very polarizing. And probably the biggest one that's been the lead off for the polarizing opinions is actually Venom. And we've all talked in the past about the new Venom trailer when they first showed off the teaser, kind of setting up what the tone's going to be, but never really showing off Venom himself. We saw them tease the symbiote and show how it, you know, Tom Hardy's character as Eddie Brock is monologuing and talking about everything. But we didn't get really anything, and they did the logo, and a lot of people were just kind of confused about it. But with the new trailer they just put out, they showed off Venom finally, and they showed off that he's bonded to Eddie. We know that there's other symbiotes because we do know it is taking place of the Lethal Protector story arc where they make clones of the symbiote. But they show him that he's talking and that they're kind of having to make a deal if they both want to survive. And we finally get to see the costume itself, besides just the black tendrils that he creates. He actually forms into Venom over Eddie and actually, you know, talks about themselves in the plural, saying we are Venom and not I or anything else that we've seen in the past. But a lot of people weren't really sold on the look of the outfit, as well as kind of the animation that's going into the suit, as well as still the very polarizing aspect of the story. So what are y'all's opinions on that? And Avers, let's go ahead and start with you. What are your thoughts on the new Venom trailer?
You know, I like what little we've seen so far. It's an interesting take. I didn't have a problem with the way he looks. It's about right for, you know, where we are technology wise and what they can do. So I don't know how high people's expectations are for that type of thing, especially on something like this that looks like it might be coming from an angle of being a little bit lower budget than a lot of the blockbuster tentpole comic book movies that are out there, superhero movies that are out there. So I was okay with it. After seeing it a couple times now, and I've seen it on the big screen trailer version of it. I'm definitely a lot more hyped after hearing a couple of what you guys have said on Twitter and that type of thing. You're getting me even more hyped, so I'm definitely going to be there day one when it comes out.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a very cool take on it. All right, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Neth, what are your thoughts on it, brother?
Neth isn't here. But I'll take him for Neth's place.
All right.
First L of the night.
Go ahead,
that's all right. Hey, you're going to hear me do a lot of comparisons. Hopefully I don't make the listening public sick. Big up to the chats, Salty, Neverland, everybody out there enjoying this. Especially when I get to Infinity War, because I think that'll help put everything on a balanced plane for everybody. So let me start speaking English. Okay, so for me, first seeing the Venom trailer without the Venom suit got me upset too. I said, here we go again. Marvel's on a good track. Even I don't think Marvel's involved in this project like they have.
Yeah, this one's all Sony's.
Absolutely. So I said, oh, here we go. We're messing it up. And Venom is one of my favorite characters. Is one of the only ones that I've like fully read as growing up. You know what I mean? And so then when they showed the second trailer and they put a little bit more context to it, and particularly where they showed the suit, I was excited. Here's why. I know people are used to the Marvel Productions over the top type stuff, but this the comic that you're saying that they're going to follow is more story driven. And how you got to think about it, in my mind, is think about the Punisher series on Netflix, where in the comic book, the Punisher is this big, bulky badass with 65,000 guns, and he's blowing up half of Washington, D.C. or whatever, looking for Wolverine. But the story was brought down a little bit more to show you a more complex side of the Punisher, and it worked real well. And for some reason, watching that second trailer puts me in the mind of the Marvel Punisher, which I really, really enjoyed. I think it's one of the best series on Netflix that there have been so far, if not just period. So I'm very happy to see the second trailer. I'm very happy to see that they at least showed Venom, damn it. And one part that I loved about the comic is when he talks in the plural sense. We must do this in order for us to survive. You know what I mean? And the fact that they brought that back and they're trying to tell a more complex story, I'm all for it. So I'm just saying, give it a chance. It looks like it's going to be on the same vein as the Punisher from what I could see. And I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I agree about, you know, the Punisher being a great story that they did on the Netflix out of the Netflix series. It was a much different take. You know, they really toned down the physicality and look of the Punisher, but still kept the brutality, and yet gave him a more depth as they showed the more emotional and unstable side of him after everything he's been through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I could definitely agree with that, and I'm very interested in that, and I'll give my point here in a second. Op, what did you think about the trailer, man? You back?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
I enjoy what I saw. I'll be optimistic about it, but I do have some reserves about it as well. Like, I understand it's going the Lethal Protectors route as far as the story, but like some parts of it just looks very generic as well. Like I kind of already formulated in my mind how the movie's gonna play out. You're gonna start off like you're gonna see the crashing of the symbiote laying on Earth. It's gonna cut to like Tom Holland and his girlfriend talking yada yada. Right, come back to the science and whatnot. He's gonna break to the lab. Yeah, he's gonna get caught by a symbiote. Then the entire movie's gonna be him just dealing with Venom for the first time. But he's never gonna don a suit to like the end of it. That's how things gonna format. That's how things the movie's gonna format in my head.
You think that he's not gonna be in the suit for the entirety of the movie until the very end?
Probably not. Just like it's gonna see like tendrils like pop up every now. They make like a little gauntlet pop up of Venom symbiote over his hand, stuff like that. I don't think he gonna die until the end. That's what's looking like to me. But yeah. I'll be optimistic about it. I like what I've seen, like the visuals, like the sound design, especially morphing into Venom. You can like hear the proteins like rearrange his face and his body, whatnot, to don the Venom. I guess full cow, if you want to call it that way. But yeah,
I mean, it did kind of come over like a cow, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's an interesting thought on it. Here, but for me, my biggest thing is I was already kind of interested with the first trailer. I did feel everyone, you know, not seeing Venom, you know, only hearing the monologue from Eddie Brock. However, I was interested in it and wanted to see more. I did know at that time it was a teaser, but with them finally showing off the look in here, I really do like the look. I know some people aren't completely sold, especially with the you know, Black Spider look and everything that Venom has without them having, you know, Spider-Man in the movie. But the fact is that I do like the way that it's more suited toward looking like it's ooze, like it's really dripping as we've seen, and with the tendrils as his way of attacking this way instead of, you know, doing the standard webs that he has in the past. I think it's more of an interesting adaptation and change to Venom, because we have seen Venom's powers change kind of throughout the years, especially with the fact that they are going with the Lethal Protectors route and Planet of the Symbiotes having the other symbiotes come out. You know, we're gonna see Anti-Venom and the rest of them kind of come out, so it's gonna be an interesting take. But I think when they actually showed him talking in the third or in the plural and really show off the suit, I really like the way that they transitioned it as it and came over Eddie Brock's face. It really looked awesome and well animated. Like, I don't know why a lot of people are complaining too much on it. I actually think it looks better. I hope that this does better over the past projects that Sony has done in the past, especially with the Spider-Verse and everything else, because not only are we going to have this movie in, what is it, August, September, but in December, is it October?
For Venom. Spider-Verse, they say like late 2018.
I think they said Enter the Spider-Verse is going to be in December.
Okay, so it's late 2018.
Yeah, so it is going to be something interesting, and I'm excited to see more on it, because we already know that they're going to have Eddie Brock established as a reporter like he was in the comics well before Peter ever joined the Daily Bugle and stuff like that, and some of the storylines. So it's going to be an interesting take. I do know a lot of people still feel weird with them not mentioning Spider-Man and all that, but we're going to see how it encompasses the overall what they're trying to do. And, you know, maybe if it works out that they'll be able to cut another deal with Kevin Feige and the rest of the MCU and bring over Venom, because it would be interesting to have him back over.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure most people don't know who are complaining about Venom as far as Spider-Man. Like, there are good Venom stories without Spider-Man. You don't need him to be in a movie make it good. I'm pretty sure Venom is synonymous with Spider-Man. Of course, everybody knows that part. So everybody expects him to be in there, but you don't necessarily need Spider-Man in this movie to make it a good movie. It's pretty much an origin story about Venom. Yes, it's changed because Spider-Man did get the black suit first. Was during Secret Wars, I think. I forgot we first got the black suit, but he of course ripped it off.
He had the black suit during Planet of the Symbiotes, and then he got it. He donned the black suit again during Secret Wars. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not the exact origin of it, but what do y'all expect at this point? We have comic movies like over a decade now.
Yeah, I
and
mean, if you already think about it, I mean, we with the new movie with Infinity War that just came out, he already has the Iron Spider, and they gave him the Iron Spider suit in a much different way than he did in the comics.
Exactly.
So I mean, we've seen the black spider suit multiple times throughout Spider-Man's time, and not everything is tied to the Venom suit. It was only tied the first time when he was first infused with the symbiote after it crash landed. But after that, he donned it multiple times, because he even did it in which storyline it was. It was a storyline with Kraven, where Kraven actually buried Peter alive and actually donned the Spider-Man suit and actually beat a villain. I can't remember who it was. More than Peter ever could, because he could never stop that villain. And after Kraven did, I actually think that storyline is Back in Black. But after Kraven beat that supervillain, Kraven felt that he proved that he was better than anyone else and even better than Spider-Man, and then killed himself.
Kraven's Last Hunt. That was it.
Yeah. Was it Kraven's Last Hunt?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Okay, yeah. Because I know it was that one, and then the Back in Black storyline that he donned the suit. And I also believe Death of Mary Jane, he also donned it, because that's when he had to make a deal with the devil to save Aunt May and basically annul the marriage between him and Mary Jane from never ever happening. So there's been a few times when they brought out the black spider suit. So it's definitely something out there.
Of course, I think people are expecting like the old, I guess, original Venom. I guess they're expecting a big buff hulking Venom, but like as cool as that will be, if you put that on a big screen, it's gonna look ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and I mean we already saw how that played out the first time with the Sam Raimi when they tried to do that on Topher Grace. It was just disproportionate and looked awkward.
Yeah.
So, and again, you guys have to forgive me for my ignorance. Remember, I'm the one that said, what did I say? Iron Man got his suit built in Wakanda. So you got to excuse me. That's my disclaimer. All right. But Sony did the Wolverine, the Logan movie, correct?
No, that was Fox.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. See what I'm saying. So what I'm thinking is to piggyback off of Cyrus's point about you not seeing the big bulky, Venom and all that. I don't think it's going to be crazy Marvel action. It's going to be more dramatic than anything. Sony may be looking at the success of a Logan and the success. I just get this real cinematic deep vibe. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I get this real cinematic deep vibe that they're trying to present here. And it could be piggybacking off of Logan and, off of Punisher and stuff like that. And, you don't need a Spider-Man. You don't need to see Venom knocking over buildings, fighting Spider-Man in the air. You don't need that, I think, to tell a good Venom story. The problem is like how you guys were just mentioning, is this going to be too predictable? Is this just going to is this going to run Venom's name through the mud? Is it going to be too underwhelming? Excuse me. And I hope not, but we'll see. Yeah.
And we've actually talked about this, and we think and from what they state is that Venom is going to be more akin to kind of a horror movie, and aspects is that Venom is going to be haunting Eddie, but at the same time protecting him against the organization that's trying to clone and manufacture the symbiotes.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting, because that's why in this one, when you saw him interviewing the company, they're the ones who had the truck with the symbiotes, and they kind of kicked him out when he started getting too in depth with his reporting, and ended up getting caught up with one and getting sick, and they knew exactly where he was. So it's going to be more of I would say more of a thriller in an aspect, if you really wanted to look at it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's going to be something interesting all the way around. I think that a lot of people jumped on it a little too quickly.
They did.
The way that they were they put out the teaser back in, what was it, February, March. And now that we actually got the actual first view of the suit, and kind of a little bit more tone on the story. I think it's gonna be good. I don't think it's gonna be amazing or a blowout, but I think it's gonna be better than what we've seen from them in the past. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely gonna see it.
Yeah,
I've got a question.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
So forgive me for not knowing this, but I've only heard a little bit about it. So is this not connected at all to any of the Spider-Man like cinematic movies at all, or is it's like a one-off thing, or
No? So this is actually it's not a one-off. This is to start their Sony's live-action Spider-Verse after the failure of the Sam Raimi trilogy from the original Spider-Man, and then the Amazing Spider-Man. Even though Spider-Man Homecoming is tied into the MCU, they still want to see if they can make their own cinematic Spider-Verse. And the way they wanted to start it off is that they wanted to do Venom. However, originally they were stating they weren't going to mention Spider-Man or anything else, but then a lot of people are just like, how can you have Venom without Spider-Man? So they're supposed to reference him, and that Tom Holland is going to appear or cameo throughout it because he is still owned to Sony. But for the greater aspect of it, he's not going to be tied to the MCU with everything that Kevin Feige and Marvel are building.
But if it's a big hit, they could potentially do that though in the future.
Yeah, they could potentially if they work out a deal like they did with Tom Holland Spider-Man for the MCU when Kevin Feige approached them to use the character for Civil War. If Venom does well and they start to be able to, they may be able to branch out, and we may potentially see Venom in the MCU at some time.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that answers that question then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just want Sony to let go of Spider-Man IP and everything around it. I'm just
well, I mean that's what and that's the interesting thing is that's what Kevin Feige has been actively working towards, and what they're doing at Disney is that with the Marvel studio is they want to bring all the Marvel IPs that were sold out back in the day. He wants to bring them all back in house. He wants to bring them all to the Marvel studio and be able to have all their IPs together, so that way they can do just anything that they can imagine or want with him. That's why he talked about with Fox. That's why he says right now that they don't have any plans, but that's why they've been working deals and everything before. He's like, because they could have easily been, just the Avenger studio, just the Iron Man or Thor or Captain America studio. But he said, no, he wants to be the Marvel studio. He wants to have everything brought back and bring the family together. And that's why you saw the push with Fox bringing the X-Men and the first family with the Fantastic Four and everything else. And we're still seeing that progress out. But once that all finalizes, whenever it does, that's when he says that's when they're going to start making plans. But he has a contingency for either way it happens. But he does want all the Marvel stuff to come back. That's why, they traded for Ego for Guardians and other things. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. And I hope we can squeeze in some One Piece news that came in today, later on the show, but not now, of course. Because me and Neverland, like the only ones who actually hyped about this, because probably the only ones who actually know about it, but later on.
Yeah, dude, I still got to watch all the animes that you. Oh, Tokyo. I heard, not to throw the show off, but heard you guys chatting about Tokyo Ghoul earlier. Oh man,
yeah.
What season is it on? Is it season 3?
Yeah, it's season 3 right now.
Oh, dude, I'm like halfway through 1.
Moss, you got to catch up on it because season 3.
I didn't finish Death Note yet. You're good.
Dude, yeah, me neither. Isn't that crazy? I'm like halfway through the 2nd season of Death Note, but that's because someone spoiled the end for me. Someone spoiled the end for me and ruined the freaking. So I never finished it, but.
Oh man. But yeah, but it is good. You gotta see that here. But yeah, Tokyo Ghoul, the 3rd season is called Tokyo Ghoul-Re. It's following one of the side stories, which is still running now and part of the main. And I'm liking it because they do kind of push back into the manga aspect and tying the story back from where they drifted off with Tokyo Ghoul Route A. However, they still maintain the continuity from Route A. So they're just kind of reorganizing it. So it's definitely has its aspects where it's original video animation, whereas their own original anime story. But at the same time, it is going back towards the comics. So it is really good to see. So I've been really happy with it. So I'm loving it.
And word of advice, if you want to get into One Piece, I would say read the manga first. If you want to watch anime, just go back and watch the big fights. Because in the beginning of anime, like the first 2-3 arcs are good. I want to say that, but after that, they put a bunch of filler crap in it as well to draw out the episodes, just a whole bunch of unnecessary things in it as well. So the anime experience is good for watching the big fights in One Piece. But if you want to like, get a good story, get consistency, read the manga. I'll give you that advice for One Piece.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. But whoo, look who finally is slipping right in, coming in just out of nowhere, just being all sneaky, finally getting free from work. It's Soul. What's up with you, brother?
What's good, y'all?
Hey, man, how was work, man?
Long.
Oh, man, you sound tired.
What's the topic we're on right now?
Well, right now we were just talking about our impressions from the Venom trailer and everything.
Oh, okay.
Look at that hesitation.
Oh man! Uh-oh.
And Soul's defending it in the group chat too.
Venom is wonderful, you know.
Oh,
it's gonna do great.
Yeah.
And watch all the haters that was hating on it over a teaser trailer.
Yeah.
Well,
You got one of those haters in the comments right now.
eventually love this movie.
Well, so can I ask you, Saul? Do you? I got a more cinematic Logan / Marvel Punisher on Netflix feel from it. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't going big and bad. It was going more dramatic with it, and I think it's going to be okay because of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can agree. Like there's some films like it's like when you look at like certain films now, like you like, oh, this movie belongs on Netflix. It's just dark.
Absolutely, yes.
And from that, this can definitely be like they probably could have definitely put this on Netflix, but I think it's still going to be perceived well. I think it's still going to do well. Hopefully hopefully they stay more into like the comic side. So even with the design, it looks more like comic-y. So,
Yes. Yep.
I don't know. I think it's going to do good. I'm not going to say it's going to do great, but I think it's going to do good.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying, and I definitely got that feel. But Neth over here saying that movie's gonna be straight trash.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's this Neth guy in the chat. Can we block him?
Get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
Get the boot. I think we all got how we feel about Venom out of the way, and I think that this shows just the kind of variation that it has. It'll appeal for some and how some people perceive the movie. And I think that's the good thing about it is that it should have that. It shouldn't just be like instantly up trash or you got to explain it a little bit.
I think Tom Hardy's he's going to bring the character to life, and I think that's what really matters.
Bring Tom Hardy.
I agree. Tom Hardy really does get into the roles that he picks up, and he wouldn't have chosen the Venom movie if he didn't feel or believe in the script. That's why I'm sold on how he's going to do Eddie Brock.
And let's look at it this way. Tom Hardy, he made a philosophical Bane work in Dark Knight Rises. So I'm pretty sure you could pull off a Venom.
he made a movie when he was talking to himself the entire time.
Yeah.
He had a fake twin.
Yeah, exactly.
History credit is definitely up there. But real quick, since we're talking about Daredevil on Netflix shows, like real quick, this news slipped through the cracks a little bit, but like the former Daredevil showrunner mentioned that you want to make a Moon Knight TV series in the future.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's dope. And I think that would be really good because I don't know a lot about Moonlight, but doesn't he have like many personalities? Like one is rich, one is
one's rich, one's taxi driver, the other what's the other one? There's another one I want to say. I don't remember entirely.
Neth got the comics, so he probably knows.
Neth's been reading the Moon Knight comics. I knew a little bit of Moon Knight, but I do know a little bit about his history, but that he was offered to the goddess Khonshu, and that's how he took on his mantle of everything, is that he's supposed to be like a spirit of vengeance, but he's not dead.
I know in the old comics of Moon Knight, like he was more of a person that like fought like werewolves and demons and shit like that. So I don't if they do that, I think that would be really dope. I think that'd be something I'll watch for sure.
Oh yeah, it's not confirmed. It's just something he wants to do in the future. I just want to bring it up for y'all, just so y'all know.
And then it'd be on Netflix too, right? Yeah. Oh
yeah. Of course, I think that'd be real good. Yeah,
be
best medium for him.
Oh, apparently he said that the same showrunner also did Sucker Punch, which I actually really
Yes.
liked. It was not an amazing movie, but it was still a really good movie. I really liked that one. But that's interesting. I really hope that they go through with that because that would be really awesome to see. Now with our talks about some people's views and kind of looking at a movie, you know, that falls under the ratings and what some people start to perceive and make their choices off of. And right now we've seen that ratings have kind of been polarizing, not just for movies but for games as well, is that they don't seem to give an accurate representation of the films or media that they're representing, because you have so many different score or aggregate scores and how they're scored, from Metacritic to IMDb to Rotten Tomatoes to, you know, so many others, that the scores are all over the place and there's no accurate way to judge a movie. Even in the old days with the whole star rating, you know, they would say it's 4 out of 5 stars or 3 out of 4 stars or 4 out of 4 stars, you know, it'd be all over the place. There was no average or way to really judge a movie. Do y'all feel like ratings are just now kind of used as a publicity and marketing ploy just to kind of build hype for a movie or to really destroy a movie?
Oh,
Or do
definitely.
you think that it has any sort of aspect, you know?
It's
Like
definitely
that's why they try to keep, for movies, they try to keep it as simple as possible. And the higher number that somebody sees, or the highest value that somebody sees, they're just like, oh, it got to be good. I might check it out. So
Okay, so you definitely agree that they just use it as a way to just simplify if a movie is something tangible for people or not.
yeah, because it's hard to portray how good a movie is in like a 30-second commercial or something like that, or like just you're just driving on the highway and you see a billboard.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I understand that. Avers, what do you think, man?
Are you saying like from a meta or an aggregate score, or are you talking about just individual, just giving it one individual giving it a review? Which one are you?
I'm talking about the aggregate overall score from
Okay.
like a site like Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic. How all these reviews make this score and doesn't give an accurate representation as it averages out. Do you think that with the way that each one varies, is it just really a marketing stunt to really kind of push a movie or kill a movie, or is it just, you know, overrated and shouldn't be used anymore
Not
or anything like that?
necessarily. Like I really think that both have happened before. I think there have been some situations where people have decided that they like a certain property or a company or whatever, and they've kind of maybe padded their review a little bit to highlight their own bias towards those things, and it may be against something else. They've given lower scores. I definitely think that has happened, but I also think the just honest, you know, with the aggregate score being a little low or a little high on some things, I also think that's just naturally happened as well. So I don't think it's like I don't think there's really a conspiracy or anything like that to affect all of those things. But I mean, you're right. I mean, like if you look at some of the overall scores from certain things for even Infinity War, you know, it's interesting to see the way some of those scores pan out and the way that they work from the critics' standpoint and what that score ends up being, and then they work from the fans and moviegoers' score and what that ends up being, and how sometimes there's a huge difference, like there was with Justice League. There was one of the biggest gaps I've ever seen between those things. So I think both situations can happen and do happen, and I think we've definitely seen that in the last year for sure.
Definitely. Okay, that's a very solid point and very well thought out. All right. Sai, what do you think about it, Op?
It's definitely a marketing ploy. It's pretty much marketing 101. You want something to sell, you got hype it up pretty much. Like you go to the grocery store, you see some like these bargain bin items, you go over to like next aisle, like, ooh, premium quality. Oh, it's just different box wrapping, like slightly different material. That's pretty much what it is for these reviews. Some paid, you can go in conspiracy about some being paid off, whatnot. I'll leave all that alone. But if they does well for them, they will use to hype up their movie. But I look at the best way to review a movie is go and watch it yourself. And that goes with anything. Just go and determine it for yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
When we're younger, we saw rated high. Ooh, that's probably good. Sometimes end up being trash, and like me, vice versa. Something rated low, you actually liking it. So you really can't trust some of these review sites and whatnot, because you go read some of these reviews. Some people like they're praising the movie the entire time, and you get to the end like, oh, well, this character died, this character so died, whatnot, and like 6 out of 10, like, huh? Like,
Yeah.
you getting that conclusion after all that praise, all that admiration, like,
Yeah, they based it off of one thing that they didn't like off a movie. Yeah.
pretty much, or it could
Yeah.
be the complete opposite, like having all these issues, all these like plots in it that you don't.
They're
like,
one great thing.
Yeah, there's
No,
one
yeah,
great thing
man.
to say the movie for you. Exactly.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
that's
all right.
clear for some games, but you know, I'm not gonna go into that because it's a nerd game. This is a nerd culture podcast. Gonna leave all that alone.
Well,
Yeah.
I am, if I'm allowed, and you guys don't eject those seals.
Okay. Moss is gonna bite the bullet on that. All right.
You know, hey, look, man, I battled you guys on Black Panther and came out, scathed and beat up and scabbed up and lived to see another day. So, I can throw some shade at God of War. It maybe still have a leg or two. You know, here's the deal. Let me give you the old geezer's perspective of ratings. Now they don't mean anything. Here's why I say that. Because right now, ratings are used to project someone's interpersonal feelings about something and try to make that golden across the board. Now, you may listen to that and may say, well, ain't that what ratings are about? No. Back in the day when I was growing up, people gauge things on what the broader audience might like. They recognize that there are people of different sectors that have different tastes. And they say, okay, well, we consider this a 7 because the action buffs may like it, the dramatic buffs may not like it, and the so-and-so might consider it horrible. When we average that together, that's a 7. You know what I mean? What people, so people used to gauge the audience, understand the demographics of the audience, and then come up with an aggregate score that way. What happens more or less now is someone comes up with the score personally, and then they try to caveat things, damage control, whatever the case may be, to make it seem like why the broader audience should agree with them. And to me, that's a problem. Like, scores don't mean anything anymore. We'll talk about Affinity War, but I think when the first Affinity War, I'm not going to go too far. When the first Affinity War scores came out, they were like, what, 50s and 60s and shit? I don't know what there are now, but
when the first scores came out, I remember there was like a big tweet about it, like 90 tomato fresh score or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was like that was like trending all over Twitter at first, and yeah, that was the main thing.
Scores,
it was
like I saw were pretty low.
Yeah, the first scores. Yeah,
I'm talking about you're talking about Rotten Tomato. I remember I seen a tweet that said like it just hit 90 on Tomato or Rotten Tomato.
Okay, that might have been like the early, and then I think they're like a dozen.
It was like 2 weeks. It was like 2 weeks out. It was like
2 weeks. Oh, okay. So the scores that I seen, like there's this guy. He works at my place of employment, and as soon as a Rotten Tomato score pops up online, he runs to everyone and tells them the shit. So he's like, "Yeah, Affinity War is down at a 68 and all this other stuff," and people have hidden agendas or whatever the case may be. And to me, that's a problem. Because, all right, I'm going to pull the scab off the wall. We're going to talk about, because that translates to video games right now. Of course, in the console war world, where everybody's so finicky about who's the best this and who's the best that, people try to give you that same mindset and all that other stuff. We're going to take God of War as an example.
Oh, here we go.
We're going to do this. That's right. Dr. Spreadsheet does not divert from controversy. That's what I'm about.
All right, Dr. Spreadsheets is in the house. We lost Moss.
Pull up the Excel sheet. Let's go.
So here's the deal. In my mind right now, and I'm only 6 hours through, and I know people watch my playthrough like, oh, you're trash and all this other stuff. I believe that the game is a solid game, and I still have a long ways to go through. But just knowing the core mechanics, I find it very difficult to say the game isn't a good game, but to say that it's a 10. A 10, again, from where I come from, is representative of it is above average on all of the core elements to each of the individual demographics. The graphics look great. There's a great story. However, when you get to the actual gameplay, the gameplay is good. The gameplay is not superb right now. And the level design is not superb. And I've heard some baffling things like this is on the level of BioShock, where BioShock was a masterpiece in story, visuals, game, all that stuff, style, everything. Where you strategically, you would look in a room, peer in a room, and see splicers, robots, all types of crazy shit, and you would say, okay, I really got to think this out before I go in here. And it hit every demographic because it was above average on everything. This is a very great game, but I think so many people were quick to call this a 10 because we're in the day and age of, hey, this is how I feel about it. So I'm going to caveat this review why you should feel about this, even though I know you're of this demographic. And scores for movies, video games, all that stuff, they mean nothing unless you know somebody fits within your own demographic, because we all got to be honest. We all have our own likes and dislikes. You got to find someone that fits into your own demographic. And when they review something, if your feelings are similar, great. But an aggregate score, I think you may be throwing yourself way off base, on following aggregate scores. That's just from someone that's been looking at the review industry for gaming and for movies for the past 30 plus years. I've seen a drastic change on how aggregate scores are handled. All right, now let me look at the chat and see everyone burning cheers and shit and going crazy.
I understand what you're saying, but I think ratings and reviews, they change. They don't, like, you really don't see like a review. People talk about, all right, let's talk about the story now. Let's talk about the gameplay. Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about the level designs. They don't do that anymore. I think they just give it a rating of the overall experience and stuff like that. And like when it comes to like Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that, that's just to sell the movie. Cause like I remember Paddington 2, it had like a 100%. And that's basically gonna sell the movie to all right, let's all get the little kids out there, but nobody's gonna really say it has an 8.7. See, I had 8.7, and the audience score is 88. The thing I would go off of is audience score, but they have to wait till the movie gets out. So
exactly. And that's some really good, interesting points. And Moss, you really did bring up a good aspect, is that the way reviews work a lot nowadays, it really is a more personal opinion on from the reviewer's aspect. They don't break it down and really look at the different points that it should be hitting for wider audiences as it used to be, as when we saw with reviews. It's just like, what they would break it down individually. How does the story hold up? How does sound, level design, or how does the atmosphere of the movie play out? A lot of that aspect. So now it really is a lot of opinions. And when it comes to it, yes, it is definitely a marketing stunt when something is rating so highly, with the individual critics who are getting ready to see the movie, who are hyped about the movie and stuff like that, and they go out and put out the reviews, and you see hundreds down the list. And on a site like Rotten Tomatoes for movies, which is the big one, they show 99% fresh rating, or above 90, 95, 98, whatever. They use that as a marketing point. Everyone's just like, oh, look at this, it's highly rated, everyone's loving it, we should really go see it. Whereas, unfortunately, the aspect, as Avers, as you brought up with Justice League, a lot of critics panned that movie, and you saw it with, a rating of, what was it, at 34 after a few weeks that it was out. And yet you also,
it was a 54, but yeah.
And the audience got a 75. It gave it a 75%.
Yeah, 75% on the user score. And I think that that's really something that people really do need to take into, is that it is a useful tool to get an idea of what some people think about it. But the other aspect is following, look at the user reviews, and still, if it's something go in and form your own opinion. And it's something that I've heavily stated, is that while reviews are great and ratings are great to give an idea of something, it really does still depend on the person, because as we've seen, especially with movie reviews and game reviews, not everyone who does those reviews is seeing something that they're legitimately interested in. So if it's something that doesn't catch their interest, they may not necessarily score it high unless it's something that actually blows away their expectations of not being a fan. Whereas if it's someone who is interested in that aspect, like someone who likes superhero movies and, they go see a superhero movie and it does really well and hits what they expect, they're going to rate it high. Whereas someone who's not may not rate it as high. So it is still something that does need to be personally formed, but at the same time, those reviews do make a good tool to get an idea, but it's not the end all be all. That's where it needs to be broken down for both movies and games, is that while reviews are phenomenal, they do need to be taken with a hint of hesitation, and you do need to still form your own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I personally, Rotten Tomatoes for a while I thought was very consistent to this is what I would do. And again, I urge the listening public to understand that there are demographics. I'm not just trying to sound fancy or just sound like I just picked up a thesaurus yesterday, but demographics is a serious thing. Understand the mold that you fit in. Everybody has particular likes, and you got to find the people that have similar likes if you're going to go off reviews. As Burke said, your best option is always try it for yourself. But people are busy. 9 jobs, 15 hours a day, 35 kids, crazy stuff,
Look, not everyone's the Octomom, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that being said, sometimes you do, like, look, I don't want to waste my time with this. I want to get a good idea if it's even worth my money. You got to find a group that fits your demographic. So what I would do is, and I started to trust Rotten Tomato for a while, but I've changed my mind because of how flooded they become with a bunch of BS. For a while, when I would go see a movie, I would have a score for it, and then I would go to Rotten Tomato and see that the score was very similar. I'm like, holy shit, okay, I can trust these guys. But then, they started getting real popular, and we nerds know how things go. When things get popular, it gets ruined. You know what I mean? So, but that's what you got to do in my mind. You got to understand the demographic that you fit in, and if you're going to use reviews, find a reviewer that fits into your demographic.
Definitely. And that's definitely one way to see it, because we do see that there are still some really great reviewers out there who do keep it very objective. While they do have their preferences, they still do break everything down in a good way. And it is still one of those things that is going to take a little bit of playing around with. And I think that everyone brought up some real good points about how ratings work and everything. So it's definitely interesting to see.
Real quick question to the panel. I guess this probably refers more to gaming, but it can refer to movies as well. But how do you feel about something getting a perfect score? Because to me at this point, I feel like it does carry the same weight as it used to. Because it's seen it thrown around so much, so easily at almost everything. I'm just like,
I don't know. It's been rare to actually see like a perfect score in like the video games, honestly. So like,
but so far it's been tossed around a lot, man.
If I do see something like that, I'm not going to like say, this can't be true. I'm going to check it out and then base my opinion off of that after. But
yeah, that's the way I've been. Whenever I see something like highly rated, I'm just like, okay. I was like, it's seeing good reviews. I was like, is it worth it? I was like, I'm going to check it out. And if it's just like, all right, I could see why some people like it. Like for us, especially, we loved Gears of War 4. We thought that the story was really well done. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't as amazing as the original trilogy, but it did set up a lot of new aspects, and it was still really well done.
Are you taking the entire trilogy and comparing it to just one game and 4 of them?
Well, I mean, in the aspects of the trilogy of the stories that they set up and how they played out, and the overall aspect compared to what the new one is setting up. The new one still hit a lot of great points. They still had a lot of old characters. They did show, the history from before, how it plays into the new world with the new crew. But, it does have its faults where it does kind of misstep with the pacing and how some of the characters react. However, it's still a great story overall.
What do you mean? What was a pacing misstep about 4?
Some of the pacing, at least for me, was when they were having to.
I didn't like the robot area, like
the very opening in the city.
Isn't me and Avers almost like the robots? I guess just me and you, Avers, like the robots.
Yeah. I like the robots. I liked them when they first showed up.
Well, I think they kind of had to go with a different enemy to set up the suspense of what is going on here. Why are we here again? Why are the kids of these people that played the big role in the first trilogy? Why are they having to deal with something? So they kind of needed to slow it down a little bit. So I hear what you're saying about that part, the robot affecting the pacing, but they really needed something like that. The swarm would not have had as big of an impact later on in the game if the first chapter was boom, we're throwing the swarm at you right here. It would have been very repetitive. Five acts later, when you're getting towards the end of the game, you've been like, wow, okay, we've been dealing with the swarm for literally every battle the entire game. So I think they kind of needed that to offset it a little bit. I liked it quite a bit, and I also like the storytelling and for that it feels a lot more subtle. Whereas if you go back and you play the original trilogy, there's some good things they did with Dom and his wife and stuff like that are a little bit kind of subtle, but it's really kind of beating you over the head with what's going on and these outrageous
It's very
characters
about it. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I really loved about it is that more where the pacing started slowing down, like especially when you're crossing through the church, while they're trying to find Raina's mom and trying to recover Marcus, there are some aspects when they're going through the church and then having to go up into the old mall and things that it really slows down. But that does also help playing, as he stated, it's more subtle and a little bit more personal with the way that's telling their story, whereas everything else was very end of the world, that was a greater stake while still having its personal moments between Marcus and his dad and those issues, Dom and his wife, and then Cole and Baird still recovering from everything that happened from before when they were discharged and everything for court martialing and all that. So it did have two different tones, but they did play well at certain aspects, whereas the first three was very in your face, heavy paced action. The fourth game really kind of slowed that down at a lot of points, but when it did have its moments where it did get heavy in the firefights, it really did.
Yeah, it ramps up. They kind of have to have something to ramp up to, or it's not going to be as impactful if the whole game is that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah. And like I said, that's one of those things where a lot of people are going to have that very, very differentiating opinion, is that some people will love the fast pace, or others people aren't going to enjoy the slowdown as much.
I just wanted to ask something though, because I found Operations question there really intriguing. So are you saying, I'm just throwing out the games that I remember seeing get a lot of 10s real quick, and you tell me if I'm on the right path. So are you saying stuff like Metal Gear 5, Zelda Breath of the Wild, the most recent Mario game, and now God of War, are you saying that those just all getting all these 10s are coming a little too easily, and then now in retrospect we're kind of taking a look back at least the first three that I mentioned and saying, well, is it really a 10? Especially in Metal Gear's case, like I don't think.
Yeah, I can't agree with Metal Gear.
I was not a 10 for me. I enjoyed the game, enjoyed the gameplay. The story was like all over the place. It wasn't. Really,
and I agreed with that. And I'm a heavy Metal Gear fan. Like I absolutely love Metal Gear and have played each of them multiple times and know the story and can explain it, but it would take hours. But as much as I loved 5, the gameplay and everything was solid, but the story was kind of all over the place because it wasn't set in stone. You did have a lot of the cassettes telling you the story where you had very few cutscenes over a while. And that was kind of showing where Konami was kind of bringing down the hammer on things, because the gameplay and everything else in that was perfect. It was phenomenal. I enjoyed the open world aspect. It really did play all well together, even though, you had the 2 maps. However, the story is where it started to falter. You would see where it's still tied overall to everything, but it wasn't as solid as it could have been. And that was definitely something, while highly rated, I wouldn't have said it was perfect.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, as far as like Mario and Zelda, I haven't played them. Could be completely transparent. I have a Switch, so I can't speak on them definitively, but just from observations, what I've seen of them, I see their high praise. I approach it with skepticism, right? If anything gets a high score, gets like trash, I'm like, I'll play for myself and judge for myself.
Yeah,
I usually approach those kind of situations.
Yeah, my thoughts, Avers, is this is going to be unpopular, but that's what I do. That's my brand. I think that overall, in comparison to other generations where you had something unique brought to the table that just pushed gaming forward from individual titles, I think overall from everybody, that this has been the most lackluster generation. Now, hear me out. You have good games, but I don't think you have, and for those that follow me, I know you're getting dead tired of hearing this, but you don't have your Mass Effect and BioShock type games this generation that move the generation forward. Like, wow, like this is what I could get from gaming. I can't believe it. You have games that put together past elements, and they're solid titles, but they're not they're not the term genre defining. I don't yet, but I mean like moving game forward, like full steam ahead. I don't think you
have to agree. Yeah, I have to agree.
So because of that, you have people that are grading on a curve. So because you have a solid game, you have a solid 8.5 game, they're giving an extra 1.5 because it's good.
Yeah.
Yes. But Moss, real quick, have you played Prey last year?
I did not play the Prey from last year.
Oh, the reboot Prey? Yes. Oh my god, that game was amazing.
Here's why I didn't play it. Again, this is going to sound superficial and stupid. I love the original Prey so much because it was loopy and crazy.
I feel you on that.
I loved it, and I was very upset that they didn't just make this a different IP, but they overwrote the IP with this one. So I never gave it a chance. I was unfair to that game.
Okay, that's fair. But all right, I'm a big. Oh, go ahead, Bloodie.
I was gonna say I would definitely give it a chance, Moss, because it really is a phenomenal. I know that they took the name and did something different with it. However, with the fact that it was done by Arcane Studios is one of the few studios that are doing immersive first-person sim games. And with what they did with Dishonored was amazing, and what they did with Prey, they took that in a science fiction aspect. And it was well done. They did those first-person immersive simulation games that just aren't around anymore. You know, after System Shock 2 back in the day, there's been no one who touches that genre. You know, Arcane gave them a breath of life with Dishonored and Prey, but unfortunately, I just don't think that's a genre that'll really sit well outside of a studio like them that have accomplished doing it. That's going to be done by the general public anymore.
Yeah, and y'all know I love BioShock series, but I'll say this as for giving praise on Prey. We all were looking for that BioShock for this generation of push gaming forward. I'll argue that Prey came the closest out of any games that we played this gen. I'll argue that Prey came the closest. Because I was playing, it felt like Half-Life 2 for me when I was playing the game. Like a great story, great atmosphere. Gunplay is amazing. Well, gunplay needs some improvement.
The gunplay was unique, I'll say that.
It was unique.
It seems like everybody's like targeting God of War as the game of this generation.
Nah.
I haven't played it. Can't get nothing definitive, but I don't see.
I'm just saying that's what the media is saying.
It's a good game. Yeah, I mean,
but there's been plenty of others that have helped to push something. Like I said, with Prey, they tried to really bring back that immersive simulation genre. That
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't hear anything about Prey. I heard that it was like almost like a buggy mess on console.
It was buggy on PC.
It was buggy on PC. On console when it first launched, dude. It was perfect. It was pretty solid. And after a few updates, it was perfect, dude. Like there was no big issues. Like the only thing that was really a problem is that like when it first launched is that you could actually create stuff in the and like this the fabricator, and you can clone it by basically putting in a solid piece and then splitting it in half and duplicating it all into more.
Oh, I abused the hell out of that system,
dude. I think I had like 10,000 of everything, and that was my first save before they got rid of it, and I think I still have that save because I think I literally have all the skills because I made all the upgrade stuff.
Dude, I maxed out my human skills. I left the what was it? I forgot what the creatures were called that you're fighting in, but I left that skill tree alone because I felt like getting attacked by all my turrets. That's set throughout the whole place. So I left the skill tree. I left the skill tree alone. Oh, dude, but for Prey, the game got trashed because of its art style, pretty much. Yeah, people were like, "What's a full realistic game?" Like, no, that's not what they're going for this game. It looked good, and it was regards what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but I abused the hell out of that exploit back in the day.
Ooh, man, unfortunately.
Now let's go ahead and move on to our next stuff because I think we've really hit the ratings all over. But we always go left. That's what it's supposed to be, man. Just talk.
Yeah.
Now, for this is especially for us here on the panel who love anime, and I know Avers, me and you have talked about some of the anime you watched back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
And I've been showing you some small things, newer stuff to get into. But for us on the panel, because we've made our feelings about this very open, is that the Japanese government has actually pushed and is talking with ISPs and trying to get legislation to officially pass laws and speak with ISPs to block pirate websites for both manga and anime. And when I was reading through this and seeing why they do it, there's it's a good thing and a bad thing. And we've all talked about why we do what we do. And the big thing about it is that one, them having ISPs start blocking these pirate websites is one, it's going to lower the amount of websites that actually have some of these shows as well as these old mangas that a lot of people have, and it won't reach a wider audience. But the bigger thing about it is that with some of these sites, while yes, they are, free and they do put up a lot of ad to get money to run their sites, is that they have dedicated people and there are groups out there that do these fan translations for a lot of the Japanese raw mangas that come over or find these old shows and upload them, because the fact that they're not getting brought over to the West. We're not getting them here in the US. We're not getting them in the UK and Australia, others, because they're just not big names that a lot of people attract for. And because of that, a lot of the smaller shows aren't getting the support or continuation that we would hope for. Even some of the bigger ones aren't getting carried over for some seasons until a couple years later, or not even at all, despite the fact that they were so big. And with them really starting to headhunt for these other sites, because we've seen them push to shut down sites before, but they pop back up, is that it's a bad thing, because yes, it's not necessarily supporting the creators. However, a lot of these sites say, even though you're reading it, if you really like it, buy the stuff, even though yes, you may not be able to read it or anything. It does show that there is support over here and that we do want them to bring it over. However, at the same time, with taking these down, we're not seeing those things brought over to the West, and it is kind of killing the few people that are willing to support it or really be intrigued, because they're not getting official support. So it's one of those things that's a catch-22 on both sides. So I want to see what y'all think about this. So let's start with you, because me and you have gone in about this, especially with anime streaming sites that we won't name, because that's what we do.
We can say they're trash, but we'll name them.
Yeah, we're gonna say not the name of the sites that we use, because the official sites all show the same things. But this is some very interesting stuff. So why don't you start it off?
It's not much I can really say. It's just, it sucks for the people. You say it was in Japan, right?
Yeah, the Japanese government is speaking with ISPs.
Yeah, it sucks that they're trying to control what they, I guess, watch and what sites that they try to get on, because some people can't afford to pay for the premium sites like Crunchyroll, and some of these sites are not even in those areas. So the only thing I can say is it sucks. I hope that these other websites figure out a way to still provide for these people that don't have these premium sites in that area.
Wait, Crunchyroll's premium?
Yeah, they do have a premium.
Oh, not all 5 seen, but okay.
No, Crunchyroll does offer a manga service, but it's only for their premium subscribers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take a swing at this too. Like, this is really what you said, Bloodie, a double-edged sword, pretty much. Because if they want to put this much effort into cracking down on these websites, because they're in a good right to this is piracy. They were getting legal copy. They're illegally scanning these copies of the manga onto the internet, putting these legal episodes of the manga, of the anime as well. But if they're going to crack down on these websites, that's putting the same amount of effort into actually, I guess, increasing accessibility of the manga and anime as well. Because we all know we use Crunchyroll. It's not the best.
It's not. It shuts down when there's something big and stuff like that.
Sure not.
Yeah, we saw how bad it was at handling all the Dragon Ball Super simulcasts.
I'm like saying, if they're gonna pull these resources and create this witch hunt for these websites, I want to see them put the same amount of effort in improving the websites we have right now to increase the accessibility of these manga and animes. Like improve Crunchyroll, that outdated, get rid of outdated UI. I think it's like made back in the early 2000s. Like, come on now. Have like a dedicated website for a manga as well, not just the popular ones, but the older ones as well. Nobody knows about.
And then there's some people like they like to read very low key manga.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll doesn't support any of that. Like I like to read this it's a manga called Dead Tube. They don't have that. It's so mature. They're not gonna support it.
Exactly. It's like they have somehow for all of them come together to create a hub for anime and manga that has good balance of the old ones and the new ones as well. Because what they have right now, they're all pretty scattered across the place. It's just one big mess.
Yeah, it's too much. Then I don't know for sure if like Japanese support like Korean manga or anything like that. So
yeah, there's not enough uniformity for it to work, but they gotta figure out a way to make this work. Because if they're gonna crack down on this, they better not be surprised and lose most of their support.
It's not going to work. I see it not working because it's kind of like YouTube into a sense. It gives that manga free promotion.
Yeah.
Like, oh, somebody checks it out. Oh, I like it. I might actually buy some of the volumes because I'm such a fan.
They might buy the merchandise too.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what they think is going to work, I guess.
And yeah, thing too is that they've been doing witch hunts for them for a long time. Even here in the West, especially with people like Funimation being the big one, owning a lot of the rights here for the West. They've been trying to hunt down on a lot of the big streaming sites, and they've gotten some shut down, but they come right back. Like it's one of those things is that it works, but it doesn't work, and there's a reason for that. Avers, I know you don't have much on this from what we've seen in the past, but as someone who understands the both sides of it, well, what do you think on this?
I don't have enough of an education or information on this stuff right now to make like a call on that like either way. But what I would do instead is ask you guys, do you think it would be better for all of these properties and all of these the basically the companies and the people that are making the manga and making everything that's being offered to have an outlet to where they can be, consumed free the way that is happening before it gets shut down? Or do you think it would actually be better for them to grow if they shut down all of these things? What's your real gut feeling on that?
And for me on this one is we've talked about this in the past, is that we have a strong disdain for Crunchyroll and Funimation, not because of the fact that we don't want to support the creators and the shows that they have. It's the fact of none of them are doing anything unique. They're not getting any sort of shows that aren't being put on other platforms. They're only taking the big names. They're not putting out some of the stuff that may not be as noticed throughout some of the seasons. And that's the issue, is that if they want to go out and after some of these streaming sites, is that they really need to iterate with how their system works through the API and everything else, as well as offering more variety, because everything you see on Crunchyroll is all on Funimation as well, despite as well as a few
and
things
Hulu.
And Hulu. Everything there is all the same thing.
They're all a bunch of remixes of each other, essentially.
Yeah, they really are. Same with what used to be Anime Strike before it was shut down. Amazon Prime has a few shows, but the rest of everything on there from their anime is everything that's on, Crunchyroll and Funimation. And Neverland did bring up a good point as well, is that on Crunchyroll, High School DxD, which, as we talked about, is a more mature, ecchi styled anime, is heavily censored on Crunchyroll because it is a more open platform, whereas on some other sites they do have access to the uncensored version of that series, which is one of those things. So as we've talked about in the past, especially for them really pushing the streaming, is that they need to iterate and really open up to new animes as well as new mangas, and be able to pull out some that may not be as popular, because they only focus on the big name stuff that will obviously pull in money. But it's just like, once you have the big shows done, there's nothing to really support. On Crunchyroll, they have My Hero currently streaming there. Last season they had Ancient Magus Bride and Black Clover and Darling in the Franxx. But they don't have a lot of the others. I believe they have Golden Kamuy, Neverland. I don't know if you can confirm that for me. As well as, I don't believe they're running Megaloboxing. I think Megaloboxing is just coming out or being announced for Crunchyroll almost 5-6 weeks later. It's one of those things, is that they're not keeping up with anything and really incentivizing people to use the service, as well as with Funimation. They're all using the same 10, 15 shows, and no one's doing anything different or incentivizing more. And the fact of, like, with their manga, there's no way to pay to rent a volume and read through the whole thing. You have to be a premium subscribed member, and they only offer so many. So it is one of those things that unless these sites really heavily invest and open up to these other sites, you're going to continue seeing these illegal sites pop up.
Okay.
Yeah. This must. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, Moss.
No, I was gonna say, now it's time for me to get controversial.
Hey, dude. Hey, look, we're already controversial on this topic as it is.
I like that you preface every single time with every time.
Hey, he's the one who will say the things that people don't want to say. Let him.
I say what you because no one else will listen to me any other way, Avers. No, okay. So you guys, in one of the previous podcasts I was on, one of the biggest things I was arguing was about a better pipeline between Asian cinema, and big ups to TRS in the chat because he's going to relate to what I'm about to say, to Asian cinema and viewers in the West. Okay. They have decent pipelines to Great Britain, I believe, in Europe. Decent. Okay. Subpar. But to like us in the States and so forth, it's horrific. Just to give you an example, I don't want to go too far in the weeds. Way back in the day when you wanted to get, games that were Asian import for Genesis, we have to pay $300 from TRS and screw the covers off of them and shit in order to play them. You know what I mean? It was always the hardest to get. And these were just regular games. So when you fast forward to the cinema and the manga and the anime, it's horrific. I used to write for a group, a little small rinky-dink group called the New Age Faction. We actually have an article, and I just pulled it up from 2011, where we talk about sites like Databeo, if you guys remember them, that did Bleach and did Naruto, and how they were fan sub sites, and they were bringing you these things, and they were changing the subs a little bit to make them a little bit more popular, and they were bringing you anime like how Nux just said that aren't everywhere, that were new and exciting. And how they got shut down because of Crunchyroll started showing Naruto, and then they had the government shut them down, all this stuff. And my message to the Asian cinema markets or the Asian manga markets is you have such an incredible group of viewership and fans here. Like, you guys really should get better at extending that pipeline. But then I thought about it and I wrote an article back in 2011. So if I could just read this paragraph real quick, I'll make it real quick. So here's what I said. I said, so who's the ultimate villain? It's not Databio. It's not Crunchyroll. Not even the third parties or creators involved in the series. It's you. As long as you continue to remain mum, bitch to all the wrong entities about this issue, yet continue to financially support the Asian media suppliers as mentioned above, they will continue their bad habits and you will continue to get screwed. So basically, the only thing that will make sense is dollars. We have to stop spending our money on these rinky-dink distribution sites, and they will get the picture. And then they will look at their financials and they will say, hold on, we're not making this money. What's going on? And then they'll finally listen to us. There's so much. When we were doing this story back in 2011, we found out that there were so many entities involved, and Peter's paying Paul and all this other stuff. They don't care about us. They just care about our money. And the only way to get them to stop these bad habits is to cut off. In order to get the pipeline we want, we got to shut off the money pipeline to them. Period.
Agreed. And that's definitely where it comes down to, because you got to think too about the heavy aspect of support. And this is something I've looked at. There's quite a few manga series that I follow and that I read that I want to buy physical. However, when I look at what they offer here, is that there's one series that only goes up to volume 4. Mm-hmm. But if you look in Japan and over there, they're currently at volume 9. That means that there's 5 volumes that have yet to be translated and open for sale over here.
And why aren't they here? That's so crazy to me, you know?
Exactly. And some of these are big series that people are actively waiting for. Why are they not actively translated and brought over? You know, I understand if the next volume is a few months behind, but when you're starting to fall 5, 6, 7 volumes a difference, and you're actively cranking them out every few months over there, but it's taking almost a year to get a new one over here, that's why these sites exist, because people want to keep up with them. They wait, you know, a month or two after one shows up, especially for ongoing series and like Weekly Shonen or Shonen Jump, a lot of the bigger manga monthly manga subscriptions out there that put out new chapters every month. They wait a month or two and have these fans who dedicate themselves to translating it and bring it over from the raws that they scan over, so people are able to keep up, because there is no way for them to actively keep up. When we finally do, you know, we're almost 2 years behind on stuff. Like one of the biggest shows that I watched back in the 2000s that is no longer actively over here is Case Closed, or as it's known over there, is Detective Conan. It ran to episode 50 or so here in the US back in early 2003, maybe around that time, when it was running on Toonami. After that, it just stopped showing and they only had reruns. Well, about a year ago, I recently found that show again, and saw that they were at like episode 800 and something, and had like 15 sub movies that they've done at the same time. And I'm just like, you're telling me that this show's been running for 20 years, is extremely popular, and had 50 episodes over here, and yet they're just going to stop? And yet it's been running for almost 25 years and has this much, and they still not going to continue to support it over here. That's one of those things that causes that issue and causes that discrepancy on why some of these sites exist. Because I went back on that site that I found it on and watched all 800 episodes and all 15 movies, because I was just like, I really loved it because it's a murder mystery. I do love those, you know, Sherlock style shows, because I always liked reading the Sherlock Holmes books growing up.
Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Yeah, right. But those are always interesting, because the fact that they get really in-depth and creative with the way that they set up these murders and stuff. And I like to try and, you know, outthink it and see if I can figure it out from the get-go, or before they actually do the full reveal when they do the end of the episode. So I like to try and test myself on my knowledge and see how could it have happened. But, you know, that's something that isn't supported over here, you know. And that's just one of those things that's going to come with this. Like I actively buy physical merchandise, mangas, collectibles, and I'm going to start collecting some Blu-rays, because I do want to show the support for the creators here.
And waifu pillows.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Gotta get the body pillows, man. Gotta have the body. No, can't. Gotta get all the waifu pillows out there. But at the same time, they need to show the same kind of appreciation and help, and especially the studios or the distribution centers here in the West really do have to step it up with pooling more content to really feed that or open up, because if not, that's why you're going to have such a strong community as big as anime and manga is over here in the West now. That's why these sites exist, because of the fact that there's no other way to legally get your content. Because like at malls, they used to have those Tokyo Pop shops, which were like bookshops that sold a lot of the big mangas back in the day. But since no one really buys physical books, or there's physical bookstores anymore, you know, this is the way everyone does it, you know. Yeah, it is one of those things that do come with the times that we live in.
Yeah, I have my own little solution for this whole about if y'all want to hear it out. But if the government wants to crack down on these websites, these legal websites, at the same time, they have to create something to replace them as well. I feel like this is my pipe dream of how we can solve this. If they can somehow collab with these websites, have these ginormous archives of mangas and animes, just have them send over that to them, and pretty much create their own Netflix of these manga and animes, and just put enough dedication and love into that, keep it maintained and run enough, and they'll be fine. Like this won't be an issue for them at all. If they have something that can replace these other websites and actually be like a viable source, people get their manga and animes actually accessible to them. That's my little theory how they could fix this, though. But they're probably not going to do it because they want to dedicate money for it as well. They want to put money into it right now, so it's probably never going to happen.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to do that, because now they're going to have to think about we got to make translators, stuff like that.
They can really just hire them because they're already doing it for free anyway. But they don't want work.
They want all the money, man.
Yeah, it's sad because they want money, but they're like ignoring like the biggest pile of money, which is the West right now. But yeah, it's really contradictory.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, and like I said, we talked about this in the past about our views on streaming. So I just thought that with reading this and seeing that the big deal that they were making about it, that it would be an interesting piece to talk about because it is something that for all of us is something that is very touch base and close to home for us. So I think we've run the time quite a bit, and I think everyone's waiting to hear the real reason we're all here together. So, like I said at the beginning, we've waited almost at least 8 years for this movie, and it's the culmination of the past 10 years, almost 19, 20 movies, all leading up to this. And Marvel finally put out Avengers and Infinity War. And I have to tell you that this movie was truly something. It has left me speechless in so many different ways. I was in awe. The cinematography, the acting, the character interaction, everything in this movie has just been so phenomenal. It was truly something special, and I absolutely loved it. Now, I personally know it wasn't perfect. It did have its steps because it was changing tones a lot as it jumped back and forth, but I still absolutely loved it. And I want to hear what the rest of the panel says. Avers,
is there any way I could go last?
He's like, I gotta bite my tongue the longest. All right, so Avers, you want to go last? All right, Moss, I know you just saw it earlier today and want to talk about it. So, what did you think about? What were your impressions from the movie, and how you feel about all this?
Toilet chunks. He's gonna say it just once.
Just like Black Panther.
Is he there? I don't think he's there.
Oh, looks like he had to step away. All right, so he's gonna get that one when he gets back. So you go ahead and step off with it.
I'm gonna save a lot of stuff for next week.
Yeah, that makes sense. You kind of have to.
It's a really good movie, and I think it paves the way for how you make a large scale comic book movie.
They did it right.
It's not the best MC movie that they have made, and there's a lot of flaws, but it's an experience that you should go see. It's amazing. I would definitely say that it's amazing. It's an experience you should go see.
Definitely. I found it to be rather amazing, and we'll go into that here. So what were some of your impressions from the movie? Or what were at least some of your impressions anyways? I know you don't want to go into too much detail, but what are your impressions?
It's kind of hard, but I would say like you're on your seat the entire movie, and everything that you thought was going to happen is almost similar to like how Star Wars fans go into a movie. They're thinking that their theories might be right, and they checked all these theory videos and like, oh, this might happen in the movie and this might happen. Be prepared to that everything's gonna go left. It's gonna be completely shocking. It's a great movie and you should watch it. Just make sure you stay off the internet. Yeah. If you have not watched it yet, stay off the internet. Don't look up any videos or search it because you're gonna get spoiled.
And so you're 100% right there, because we all know this nowadays. Movie trailers come out. After that point, you can get a good gist how the movie's gonna play out. Infinity War, completely out left field, man. Like the trailers, they show you like the premise of the movie, but there's like so much goes on between those segments as well. Mm-hmm. It's just like y'all have to see for it.
And honestly, they made those trailers just for the trailers.
Yeah,
yeah, and that was a good aspect, is that some of the stuff that people talked about, and I know we've talked about, is that some of the scenes that, as Op put it, is that they typically show too much of the story or not enough of the story in the trailers. Yeah, but in this one, there's a few scenes in the trailers that they actually have in there that aren't actually in the
Yeah,
movie
that's true.
because they don't actually play out that way. They actually put that in there as a red herring, as a trick on how things are going to play out. And the way that they've stated or set up, following the typical 3-act Marvel setup that they stated, actually doesn't play out the way anyone thinks. A lot of how they said and broke it down, how this was going to happen at this point and then this here and here, actually doesn't fall into that. Everything happens kind of throughout the movie, but there's not a certain time where it's just like, hey, this part is what's going to let you know it's this part of the movie, and then this part's going to tell you that this part of the movie. No, it breaks. It really does kind of break that mold of things. If you look at Black Panther, as we could tell, the first act was them kind of setting up that he was taking over as the king and officially going through the full process. Then the second act of the movie was him going to Korea because they found Ulysses' claw, and third act is when he returns in the confrontation with Killmonger and everything's set up like that.
Is this your king?
Yeah, we know that full breakdown in that aspect. However, in this movie, what they stated was going to be the breakdown for acts actually were nowhere in the order that they said. They actually completely threw that off for a loop. And as we know, is that even the actors didn't know the order of the movie or seen the whole movie. So everything that we had known and what we were told to know was all just to kind of appease fans, to give them something to think about, and then completely throw everything out the way.
And it was also like a good marketing tool, because the main character that they showed in the trailer were the fan favorites. Cat, people saw Cat. Oh, it's Cat.
Everyone saw
people saw
people saw Black Widow.
It's like, oh yes, yeah. You saw Hulk and stuff. He's like, yes. And this movie, I would tell you the feeling of this movie. This movie feels like the last 30 minutes of Avengers movie throughout for 2 hours and 30 minutes. 2 hours and 40 minutes.
It's gonna have you at that edge of your seat, that expecting that climax all the way through, and when it does come at the end of the movie, it'll just completely drop. Like, it has you on edge. You're laughing, you're crying, you're angry, you're cheering, and then just heart drop. It really does play with every aspect of your emotions throughout the movie, and it's hard to find a moment that really fits slow. But the issue, go.
I was gonna say I got angry a couple of times throughout that movie.
Oh,
not in a bad way, in a good way. It's like
there were some scenes where it did cause a little bit of anger, and we've gone into this personally that we're gonna talk about next week on some of the issues that you had with certain characters that we're gonna go into it with, because Neth is already calling you out. In the chat.
Let me look at this chat. Let me look at this now.
Yeah, he's like, let me look at this chat.
Don't make me mod, because I'll eject them.
But they really handled it well. Now, it did have its aspects on, because of the fact that there's so much going on. They are jumping through so many different characters. For I will say that there is some pacing issues, not in a bad way. It's just a transition, as he has something heavy going on, and then it jumps to another group, and there's something a little bit slower, more laid down, as they're handling their own situation. It will kind of jump from that back high, low, high, mid, low, high, all over the place, but it's not bad. It really doesn't do it a disservice. It's just some people will notice that change in tone really quickly, kind of how Justice League had its tone issues, from being very dark and serious from the cuts from Zack Snyder to being a little bit more lighthearted and comical, action based with the interactions from the people from Joss Whedon. You'll kind of see that, but it's not a bad thing, because it does still hold true throughout the film. It really does hold through, because you do have that continued shared vision from the Russo brothers, who do handle the movie and the cast so significantly well. They really absolutely do. But you are going to see those shifts in tones very quickly when it jumps between groups of characters back and forth. But like I said, it's not a hindrance. You will just notice that. But for some, they will find that pacing a little bit all over the place. Now, I will say this, and in our impressions, is that Thanos, what you know of Thanos from the comics, throw it out the window. take it, light it on fire, throw it in the trash, take the trash can, throw it out the window.
But they should expect it by now anyway.
Yeah.
They should expect it by now.
Yeah, don't go into the movie thinking this is going to be the exact copy of Thanos from the comics.
Yeah, I took an L for that with the Age of Ultron. I expect, oh yeah, gonna do Ultron right. I got
But
Ultron.
yeah, but that was given because we were still cause first Avengers. It wasn't really anything that was like related to comics besides Loki.
Yeah.
And this one, in the Age of Ultron, we thought, oh, it's Ultron. It's about to be amazing. And then
Yeah, and that one where it was a little polarizing, but this one they really handled Thanos well and a much significant change and departure from his comic counterpart, because as I stated to a few people, is that the story in the movie itself is already a misnomer. It's not the Infinity War storyline. It's actually following it's
saga,
actually
right?
and no, it's not following the Infinity War saga. It's following the Infinity Gauntlet story. Yeah,
it's following actually like 3 stories. It's Infinity Gauntlet, I think the remake of Infinity, and I think one more.
Yeah,
Thanos Quest.
Thanos Quest. It's following those series, but it's not following the Infinity War series.
Yeah,
it's following the Infinity Gauntlet. And that is something to kind of get some people to understand a little bit more of the story. But with the way they portrayed Thanos and the way they rewrote his character for this movie, it is a significant departure, but it is still well done. Josh Brolin's acting as Thanos is so well done and believable that when he's being ruthless, you can understand why he's ruthless. And then when he actually shows that softer human aspect of him, you kind of sympathize with Thanos, just like we talked about with Killmonger being a well thought out villain and understanding and sympathizing with him. Thanos was significantly well done. And it actually really kind of surprised me as I know they were talking about it, but actually seeing the film and watching through, there was a few times where I actually was tearing up because I really felt bad and understanding why he was doing what he was doing and some of the choices he had to make, and how it affected him, as well as how it affected, the Marvel Cinematic Universe overall, the entirety of all the characters. It was one that really is a culmination of everything that we've seen up to this point. Now, I will say this. There is no hand-holding in this film. It's not like the past Marvel films where they'll kind of give you a reintroduction of the characters or explain a little bit of what's going on. This one really does not hold your hand. It does not tell you the characters' names, does not tell you why they are where they are, what's going on. It really does require that you do understand what has happened in the past 19 films. Now, that should be obvious, but there are some people who will go into that. Now, it is still enjoyable. It is still definitely something that can appeal for the drama aspect of someone who may not know everything else that's going on, like the hardcore fans. However, it is something that really does take into account of your knowledge of the past movies, characters, how they feel, their interactions with each other, their connections and stuff like that. Because I actually read a review, and this was from the New Yorker, that it was just a giant 2.5 hour ad for the rest of the Marvel movies, that they don't explain anything, that they basically say, hey, you need to go and see everything else to understand that. I'm just like, well, that's kind of obvious, as this is the culmination of all of that. But, if you have to write that in a review, you must be kind of stupid. But
previous Marvel movies do that anyway. They build off of each other. So he's doing it just to throw a dig at a movie.
Yeah, he really is, because those ones explain a little bit of what's going on in their own universe. But this is the culmination of, 5 or 6 different movie series. They're not going to be able to re-explain everything that you've seen in the past, almost 24 hours worth of movies or so. Or something like that. Like it really is something that you do need to know. However, they do kind of speed through reiterating some things, as there's a scene when they're talking about the arrival of Thanos and that he's after the Infinity Stones and he's got the gauntlet. They do state, well, these are the stones. It explains each one of the stones, and You know, it explains where some of them are from one group, and then another group will be like, hey, well, we know these stones are, you know, if you are a fan and see all the movies, you know where each stone is already, but they do kind of go back over that with you, and then the movie takes off from there.
Yeah, it's like a brief recap of everything.
Yeah, it really is brief. But as I say, this movie really does not hold your hand in any aspect of anything. You know, like look at Homecoming. Homecoming recapped how Peter and Spider-Man came into all this by kind of reviewing Civil War from him, you know, recording everything from the fights on his little camera and doing his little thing and how he got wrapped up in all of that. This does not do any of that. It really picks up. I believe this is 2 years or so, a little bit for a good while. I don't know exactly when, because I believe that Black Panther is the latest film, and the timeline anyways before Infinity War, and I believe this is a year or 2 years after.
I believe it's 2 years or so afterwards.
Yeah,
I thought they said it was 2 years after Ultron.
Well, they say they've been on the run for a couple years, but as all that, because Rhodes is walking, you know, he does have that. He is more better now. But they do say that it's been a couple years, and we know that Black Panther was the last one because that took a week after Civil War. But with Ragnarok, we know that when Thor found Hulk, that he said that he's been missing for about 3 years, and that was from Ultron.
Yeah.
So
isn't Thor Ragnarok the most closest to?
I believe yes, and technically, Ragnarok is the closest because at the last scene is that the Asgardian ship runs into Thanos in the Black Order, and that's immediately where Infinity War takes off from there. So we do know it's been roughly about 3 or 4 years because like I said, Thor did talk to Banner saying that he's been missing for almost 3 or 4 years, and that he's been hulked out for that long when he rode off in the Quinjet from Ultron. And that we do know that was a year before Civil War.
I believe too in the film. Did anybody else?
It may have been 2 years from Civil War. May have been 2 years since Ultron, and then it may have been 2 years from there to where it is in Infinity War, because it has been a little bit of a while all the way around. So it's
hard to keep track of it.
Yeah, it is one of those things.
Avers, you were saying something before I was going to chime in. I didn't want to chime in over you.
Damn, what was it? Oh, I was going to say I have a feeling that what Soul had mentioned that he's saving for next week is going to be pretty darn close to almost exactly from what he said. I can tell we probably felt the same way about the movie. So that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to go ahead.
My thoughts of the movie from 5,000 feet in the air is that it was not like was said, a movie that was not going to hold your hand and explain everyone's backdrop, but it does but their backdrop really, it matters, but it really doesn't matter in understanding what's going on with Thanos. I will say this, and again, because I'm controversial, Thanos is a true villain portrayed in a Marvel movie.
Really?
Not Killmonger. All right, let me go on.
They've had two.
There he goes again. There he goes again.
I can't disagree. He's
Thanos
technically right.
The reason that he's doing what he's trying to do, and I'm not giving any spoilers, if you think about it, it sounds so justified, but it's insane.
You know, this is the thing. Yeah. This is the weird part about it. Galactus is low-key a galactic humanitarian from his perspective. Yeah. He's doing all this for the benefit. This is no spoiler. This isn't a comic book thing. Like, everything he's doing for the benefit of everybody in the universe.
Yes.
Pretty much.
It isn't. And
Did you say Galactus? Did you mean Thanos?
Humanitarian Galactus.
And the means and the ends. Like when he gets to Soul Stone, I mean, there is no. I mean, it reminds you of what's the Voss from Far Cry 3, you know, where the whole insanity thing that became so famous in gaming. That gave me the feeling of Thanos, and then the part where he's smiling. I'm not going to spoil it, but you know, where he's smiling after something happens. it's like, wow, this dude, this is a villain. This is a villain that, you know, is really in the midst of some shit. With that being said, unfortunately for me, the movie was kind of spoiled. I had some people at work say some things, and then I had somebody on Twitter say something, so I kind of knew.
It wasn't me this time.
It wasn't Burke this time.
This time.
Things that kind of ruined the experience. But overall, no, I think it was a great movie. And this is what I think too. For people that complain about the movie adaptations of comic book series or comic book issues, this, of course, did not follow the comic book storyline, but its presentation was so comic book like.
Yeah, like, so comic booky.
Yes,
it's the most comic booky movie ever.
Absolutely. And for those that are comic book enthusiasts or buffs or adore, you will appreciate this movie even more because of that. Like, it wasn't extra fluffy enough for people that are not familiar. It was taken out of the oven just at the right time. There's a lot of things going on to me in the movie to where, let's be honest, in any other typical Marvel movie, they could have made 3 movies out of this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But to me, I think they, and not perfectly, but in a very well fashion, they crafted all this crazy shit with all these characters happening all in one period. They crafted it together in one movie. To me, that's a Marvel, no pun intended, within itself. I enjoyed the movie, and I can't wait to talk about it. No, it's definitely good. And it's the people, there was someone complaining about the pacing of it. It's just nonstop action, blah blah blah. Man, shut up. Yeah. it's a great movie adaptation of comic book themes done the best way, like Soul said.
And Miles, a quick question for you. I know in Black Panther, one reason why you're against the movie because of the action scenes. You're expecting great fighting scenes. What do you think of the fighting scenes in this movie?
Me particularly, like everyone, when they rate their Marvel movies, they're like, oh yeah, you hear a lot. You hear Black Panther, you hear Winter Soldier. I think the fighting in Winter Soldier was pretty damn good. One of my favorite Marvel movies, and again, don't judge me because I'm controversial, is Doctor Strange. I love strange shit. And Doctor Strange is like, it may not be number 1, but it's of the top 3. And my favorite scene is when Doctor Strange and Thanos engage each other. I love that. just to see the shit that was going on. I love that. So that was my favorite. But the fight scenes in here, they were the I complain about CG a lot. I had no complaints about the CG in here.
It was nothing I could notice like, oh, that's a little off. It was no point. Like, it was 1 point, but it was like more of a motion blur. It was like heavy motion blur. But that's the only thing.
I saw like one instance in the beginning, but we'll go into that in spoilers next week.
I urge everyone to see it. Again, this is where ratings don't matter. Just go see it.
Yes, experience.
If you've taken the time to watch all of the movies and follow everything, like how a lot of us have, because they're just great movies, and you want to see the climactic shebang of all this, you got to see this movie. It's not going to disappoint you, and the ending is something everybody was stunned. I'll just leave it at that. So I'm going to shut up. Just stunned.
There's like one stuff. Go ahead, Billy.
I was gonna say when you mentioned that everyone's gonna be stunned. Yes, it really is. And for us hardcores, we know a little bit better, but I'm not gonna go into why. But for the general audience, this film really does shock you throughout everything, and the way that it ends, it truly will leave you just speechless. You'll be just awestruck, and we talked about this a little bit, and there's something we're going to talk about next week, because again, we are the hardcore, so we know just a little bit more. But this is a film that for the general audience and everything else will truly impact. It will. It really does play up the shock factor on everything, because when you get to that point, you're just like, holy shit, this is how it's gonna be. And you know, it's just like, whoa. It's it really is one of those things that's hard to get around right now. But it is well worth the experience. It really is an experience. Now, like we stated here, for me, you know, it's a solid 9. You know, it does have its aspects, but overall, from what they were trying to tell with this movie to everything that got up to this point and what they did do with it, it was phenomenal. It wasn't perfect. It had its hiccups, but everything that this movie represented, and that's the big aspect, is what this movie represents and what it did is an achievement of its own. No movie series, no cinema has been able to do what they did with this. They haven't done anything on the scale of this movie. It truly is one of those films that is the first of its kind to have such a long built universe of films that are interconnected over a decade, to have a massive blockbuster film that brought all these different movies together under one umbrella for such a star-studded movie. Yeah, you had crossover movies or single off movies that had large casts, you know, Reservoir Dogs, you know, Ocean's 11, and those kinds of films, and a few things like that. However, nothing on the scale of what this movie did. I guess you can kind of maybe say Mission Impossible, since that's like on its 6th, 7th movie or something like that.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, Fast and the Furious. Yeah, but nothing on the level of what Marvel has achieved with this. And it really is an experience to see for yourself. And like I said, it will play with the expectations that you may have and what you've been told. It'll throw all of that out the window. And it does have some very big things that it's going to set up. Now, I will say this, and I'm not going to go into details on it, is that we do know that there is the Avengers 4 film, and we definitely feel there's going to be a second part to it. Now, not a definitive second part, like as if it's just going to continue straight where this off. However, there is going to be something going on in the next film that is going to be a bit of a second part to this to continue and pick up, as well as set precedent for the future. Now, when you see that, you'll understand. I believe, Avers, you're the only one who hasn't got your thoughts in on this. What were your impressions and some of your thoughts from the film itself?
Well, I saw it twice now, and I'll start with the impressions for the second viewing first, which I pretty much agree with everything everybody has said. It is a great film. It is a film that people need to go see. Pretty much everybody, whether you like these movies and you're a huge fan, or you're just kind of maybe a fair weather kind of fan, or you're just into movie going in general, this is definitely something that everybody should see. Because like you've all said, it's a culmination of all these years, all this hard work that's gone into this series, all these people, you know, we're talking, you know, tens of thousands of people now have put in a lot of work into delivering something that's never been done in film ever before, and probably will never be quite this successful, possibly ever again, or at least it's going to be a very long time before we see it on this level, on this scale, to this execution. So yeah, definitely agree with a lot of that, what you guys said. The ending in particular, you know, very impactful. The third act was really great, really something impressive. So that's my, you know, my standpoint right now. As far as how I feel about it as a whole. On my first viewing, though, you know, I got to be careful what I'm going to say. I'm going to elaborate on this next week. But my first viewing, I was really disappointed with the way 3 characters in particular are handled. And so, you know, I'm sure you guys can probably figure out, if you've seen it, who I'm talking about. And so, you know, we'll talk about that again a little bit later. But now, you know, on the second viewing, I'm kind of okay with I've sort of made a peace with it, I guess you can say. So, you know, it's all in all, it's good. And I definitely think that in the future, all of that will work a little bit better as well, after we see what's gonna happen, you know, later on.
Yep.
Totally. So yeah, that's pretty much my initial impressions there.
You know what, Avers, it's very interesting that you say that. and we're not going to do any spoilers. It's so hard, but
Yeah,
it's not going to do any spoilers. But no, even Avers hit it right on the nail. Even if you're a fair weather watcher of these series, you have to see this movie because there are some very important storyline things that happen with some very important Marvel characters. I mean, which people will recognize. They will understand without watching all of the movies. And I can see, look, my son, man, he sat there next to me and he's a shit talker. I already know what this movie's about. Blah, blah, blah. Do you want me to tell you, Dad? I'm like, shut up before I shove this damn popcorn down your throat. Right. So then we get to the end of the movie and dude, he is just stunned. He's like, what did I just see? You know how after the credits roll and they show you some other shit, he's like, okay, this is all going to make, this is all going to come to a different scenario.
A big happy ending.
Yeah, it's going to come to a different scenario. And then when it completely went left even more, he's like, Dad, what did I just see? I said, you saw your pride shoved right down your damn throat. Now shut up and let's go. But I can see where you want to go see this. And that's the Marvel, again, no pun intended, about this movie. There's nothing. It's like the Mass Effect of movies where the culmination of certain things in other movies never had such an impact. And when it comes together in such a way that can be shocking and very entertaining. But everybody that watches this movie, I think, will have a very hard-coded impression, for lack of a better term, from it. You got to go see this movie. Got to go see it.
Yeah, like for me personally, as far as the movie goes, I feel like this is like the tone I always want from a Marvel movie.
Absolutely.
I feel like they finally nailed it.
Absolutely.
I don't hate the original ones. I felt like just like a little too lighthearted.
It's
I agree.
Storybook.
Well, they needed that to set up this, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's
definitely
needed.
Needed the campiness for some of the characters because look at Iron Man. Iron Man has always been a very laissez-faire, whatever kind of dude. He's like, I'm a millionaire. I do whatever I want. But you really start to see that aspect play on him after the first Avengers. Going through the wormhole to shoot at the Chitauri, having been understanding and seeing the visions of Thanos for the past 6 years.
Absolutely.
From all that, it messed with them psychologically. He became more of an alcoholic. He was, PTSD. That's why he built so many different suits, because he was preparing for something that no one else understood. Cap was dealing with, for years being a man out of time. He was almost 100-year-old man technically. And, he's trying to fit in with the new age. It really does show, everyone went from very carefree to understanding the stakes. Thor's always been a very carefree person, but after Ragnarok, he's like, hey, I took down Surt, I stopped Ragnarok. And yet Hela, his sister, comes through and kills most of the Asgardians, and he realizes, hey, she destroyed my hammers, taking everything that was me. I have to start anew after the death of Odin. And he realized, hey, we have to destroy Asgard. We need to bring Surt. After he does that, he's just like, all right, well, what do we have left? What makes us us? And he's just like, well, you're the king now. You are the All-Father. You lead us. And he had to try and take things a little more seriously. The Guardians have always been lighthearted just because of the fact that that's theirs. But, they understood some of the stakes after the second one, after taking down Ego and things like that. But, they do start out lighthearted. The only one who wasn't necessarily too lighthearted and always had understood the stakes a little bit was
Captain America.
Not really Cap. Well, Cap, yes, in the first one, especially because, it was a World War II film with superheroes. But besides the first Cap film was Black Panther. It wasn't about necessarily fully saving the world. It was about trying to bring order to his country and face the future that he had to set up now that his father's gone.
Did Thor start away too? I didn't watch the first two Thors. I thought
not necessarily the first one. It was more of he was just a very cocky fighter against, I think they were fighting not the Dark Elves. They were fighting the Frost Giants, I believe. And after he just got a little overboard, Odin sent him to Earth without his hammer, without his powers, saying, you know, you need to relearn what it means to be worthy and to be a god and humble. And you know, that's when he had to learn things the hard way and really work back up. But for the most part, it was still a personal story. I think the second one with the Dark World and what was it, Malekith and the Dark Elves, that it got a little bit more higher stakes, but still nothing on the level of this to where it needed to be fully serious, you know?
Yeah. If I can say one last thing about Avengers Infinity War before I go like too swirly by accident, the fight in Wakanda. Oh my god, bro!
Oh,
The fight
dude,
with who?
That
the fight in Wakanda. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say this one last part. Just seeing Captain America.
They showed that plenty in the trailer, and oh man, that trailer does not do that.
We don't need to say nothing else.
Oh my god, bro! How it begins, bro? Just seeing those two characters pull up. Oh man.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's in goosebumps.
I know. Yeah. I know. It's just climactic. Like Soul said, it's like the last 30 minutes of the Avengers all throughout them. Even from the freaking beginning sequence on the ship. I'm not going to say too much. They let you know that the shit has hit the fan, like within the first 5 minutes.
Moss, before you go any further, Neth, this right here is why you're a fraud. You don't even remember half the names of the characters. Malekith was the leader of the Dark Elves.
I forgot that movie. I forgot about that movie, man, except for Thor. I'm gonna say that right.
He doesn't even remember. He doesn't even remember Caecilius from Doctor Strange.
What?
Who?
I'm
playing.
Yeah.
Frauds, all of you.
Yeah, I herpes dude. All right, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we really got out how we felt about Infinity War. It is truly something special. It's an experience. It's a culmination. It's everything that you can want. This movie really is a nerd's dream. This really is such a special movie to see translated, and it, even as hardcore, it takes everything you know and throws it out the window, and it does it in such a well done way. It's hard to see it as anything else. This really is something that is one of a kind, and I'm really excited for what we're going to see in Avengers 4 and what the next real big event that they do in however many years, because with the potential of everything they're setting up, with the new blood they're bringing in and transitioning over to new characters and new heroes to lead, it has so much potential to continue to grow and be something absolutely phenomenal and just continue to be unique. And this is something that this is something that continues to grow and be, you know, just all over, you know, one of those things. Yeah. Anyone else have any final thoughts or anything that they want to say?
Just one quick thing. We all know how Kevin Feige said he doesn't want to make this the Avengers studio, just the Marvel studio. Does anyone else feel after this phase, well, I guess after they finish everything with this, the X-Men are going to take the helm? It's like this leading in charge like the Avengers did for this couple of phases?
I don't think so. I think we're gonna see a new group of Avengers, kind of like what we've seen before, especially with a certain character that we know has been confirmed, with Captain Marvel having been confirmed for the movie from before. We do know that after, at least in the comics anyways, that after Cap died, that Captain Marvel took over as the head and leader of the Avengers, being that she is probably one of the strongest superheroes in the universe. So it is potential that we'll see a change up in the lineup. You know, with Iron Man wanting to retire, whatever's going to happen to Cap and everything in the future, I think we'll just see that the Avengers, kind of like in the comics, is going to change mantles and members, and we're going to see other people kind of step in and leave.
Yeah, I think they're going to do 2 universes at some point in time, and then have them intersect every once in a while. I think that's probably going to happen at some point.
I could see them trying to do something new and try to make a new universe. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about in the past, is that that they're going to take the X-Men universe, that if the Fox buyout does, and that's going to take a little bit of time, but take a few years, get those movies straightened out, build that up, and then do Avengers versus X-Men by leading into Secret Wars, because as I stated before, this is that the Russo brothers actually stated with the possibility of that Secret Wars is the most obvious choice to lead into, because having the Beyonder and a villain like Doctor Doom, who has so much
Oh, the
implication.
Beyonder, dear
Yeah,
Lord! If they
yeah.
bring him into, I hope they don't. One character that I think that they screwed up, to me, because he's my favorite villain of all times, is Apocalypse. I think they screwed him up.
Oh yeah, and the current Fox films, the way that they're doing things, absolutely, it is beyond god awful. But what they stated is that the most obvious choice is, if with the Fox acquisition, if they when they finish the acquisition, because right now, since Disney lost a bid on Sky Media in the UK, it's going to slow down the acquisition from being 12 months to 18 months. They were wanting to win that bid against Comcast because it would help speed up the acquisition, and they would be able to finalize it in December instead of June, July of next year. But they stated that with that many characters and having that much access, that the most obvious choice is to be Secret Wars. And that's something that I've mentioned before in past shows, is that they take a few years, get the X-Men universe straight, because the new cast is great, but they just need to get them full fleshed out, get them out there, do some really good stories, and then use Secret Wars as a way to do X-Men versus Avengers, as well as how to bring both of those universes under one umbrella. Because with Secret Wars, the Beyonder creates Battle World, brings all the universes together, and they have to fight it out, and the universe that wins is the only one that'll exist.
Exactly.
And that'll kind of help bring them together. We get to see one of the classic storylines has always been X-Men versus Avengers, and then we get to see Secret Wars, and then everything's under the Universal Marvel Cinematic Universe, as a way to bring everything together under one umbrella to tell from there. And with having the Beyonder, or even Doctor Doom being such a big implication, because Doctor Doom is a major villain who's also helped set up Battle World before. And the most recent Secret Wars redo or event is that he and the Beyonder are probably the biggest villains to really set up for an event like that, and it would be phenomenal to see.
Yeah, please don't mess up the Beyonder. Just please don't do that.
I agree. I'm right there with you. The Beyonder has so many implications that I would love. Just love it.
Now, again, I'm ignorant. So Secret Wars is the one where, I mean, we talked about this before, but that's the one with Super Incredible Hulk, right? Where he comes to the world and almost destroys the world, or is that another one?
Oh, that's another one. Secret Wars is a large scale event that was basically what it talked about was kind of hard to say. It's hard to explain, but basically the Beyonder wants to take the universe's strongest heroes from everyone and make them do make them fight in Battle World, and kind of what was known as the Contest of Champions, which is another comic series that is on its own as well. But he brings them all together and says, I want everyone to fight, and only the universe that's the strongest and survives can exist. And this was kind of their way of getting rid of a lot of continuity issues that they did, because you had
it was their version of Crisis on Infinite.
It was their.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I always, again, excuse me, I always mix up the whole Scarlet Witch scenario.
Are you talking about House of M and stuff like
that? Yeah, I always mix those two.
House of M. Yeah,
ignore me. Okay.
Yeah, but the modern Secret Wars, they did a revamp of it, like I said, and back in 2015, which involved all of that, because it included the Ultimate Marvel Universe, Marvel 2099, had the Age of Apocalypse, Marvel 1602, House of M, and I believe it also had the Uncanny Universe all into Battle World.
Yeah, and they were just like everybody's going to fight each other, and whoever wins gets their greatest desires.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe in that one they introduced they had the Beyonder as well, but they had Dr. Doom. And this one that was actually a surprise is that he was known as the first or the creator, or there was like a cult of people who were setting up Battle World that were known as the Cult of the Creator or something like that. And Dr. Doom actually wanted to try and stop the cult from ever growing. So he actually went to one of the Watchers and used his powers to try and go back to the creation of the universe, and ended up staying with the Watcher, basically watching all of time. And it's later revealed that he was the first or the creator. I can't remember what the name of the cult was, and that he was actually the big villain. That he actually placed all these hints about this cult and sowed all these seeds that will later lead into the creation of Battle World in this event. So it really is a big something really big that has a lot of implications that really can set up a lot for a play, kind of like a play with possibility for the future of the movies. But we still don't know for certain, but there's just so much that they can do. It really is amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait. I hope they try to do something like that. We just gotta wait and see, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. It is definitely one of those things that is going to be a wait and see. Now, the last thing I want to bring up before we touch out of here is two things for the MCU. One is that with the talk of Infinity War and Captain Marvel being a part of that and leading up everything here, is that we know, and it has been confirmed, and it's something that we expected for a while, is that Captain Marvel, at least Marvel, is not going to be the way that we think. That the origins for Marvel and Carol is actually going to play out significantly different than what we're used to, because it's not going to tie to her having half Kree DNA and having the computer, the machine, actually grant her wish of her wanting to be a superhero. It's actually going to play out a little bit differently. So I thought that was actually really interesting, and we've already seen some changes for other characters. But what are some of y'all's thoughts on them confirming this?
Actually, this. Oh, go ahead, Sol.
I really don't got a complaint or anything. I really don't care about Captain Marvel at all. So,
oh man, I'm the only one who likes Carol. Man, that's my girl.
So hopefully they do her some justice and make her a good part of the MCU.
Better than New Civil War.
Avers, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, they definitely are. Your desire is definitely going to be met there with what you just said. What I'm fairly certain is going to happen, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, probably not really, is it's going to be similar to the way they did Ant-Man and I can't think of his name now, the character's name, but the original Ant-Man, Scott Lang, and what's the other guy's name?
Hank Pym?
Yes. I think it's going to be very similar to that, where you see, okay. Yeah. It's not going to be exact copy, like they're not going to just take that exact storyline and copy and paste, but that's essentially, I believe, how that's going to go. And not next time we'll talk, but in a few months, I will probably have a definitive answer on that. So I'll let you guys know for sure.
Interesting.
Okay, interesting. All right. I see that. Moss, you got anything you want to say?
I'm interested to see how they're going to fit Captain Marvel in here, particularly after Infinity War. I'm trying not to be a sore person here. I don't. Again, these are movie adaptations, and I need to just get over it. But it's just me being stubborn. I don't like when the comic book backdrops are deviated from too much. But I mean, I get it. You got to do it for the big screen. So as long as, they don't water her down and her abilities down and things like that, like if she is truly Captain Marvel and what she can do, the deviation from the comic book story drop, I guess I won't focus on too much, but it'll be interesting to see. They've done okay so far. It's just something hard for me to get used to. I'm just being stubborn. That's all.
Yeah, I got you. Trust me, I understand where you're coming from. I just think that we're gonna see it interesting is that the way that she's gonna come about or get hers is that she's gonna be done in a different way. And I find it interesting because, like I said, I do know that does have a huge implication that she gets her powers from the machine when it senses her wish to be a superhero, which is why it was invented by the Kree, and it detects her Kree blood because it's how they created superhumans. So it's going to be something interesting. So it's going to be a much different take. And the last thing here is that we actually got a confirmation that it may be a while before we see Namor in the MCU. And if you don't know who Namor is basically the Marvel version of Aquaman, but he's actually very strong. He was actually one of the founding Avengers and one of the comics, and actually appeared before Aquaman, 2 years before Aquaman in the comics. But Kevin Feige did say that right now it is kind of complicated to get his rights, as I believe it was his rights were with Universal or
they're all over the place.
Yeah, they are all over the place. But I believe in the article, it was saying that it was either Universal or Paramount. But after Paramount was bought out, the rights for Namor were actually retracted and kind of stuck in limbo. So they don't own the rights, but Disney and Marvel can't get the rights back. So it's kind of stuck in limbo for right now before we may be able to see Namor on the big screen. And the Submariner is really badass, and I would love to have him make his on-screen debut, but it is going to be one of those that he may be a little bit late to the party when Aquaman's about to get his movie, later this year. So we're just going to kind of see what happens with all of this. Does anyone have any thoughts on Namor's fate? Moss, I know you definitely should know the Submariner.
Yeah. Me and TRS in the chat, he's causing havoc as usual. But we were just talking about it and just talking about the different iterations of the Marvel versus DC people. And I'm a big Marvel guy, but it was brought to me recently that a lot of my favorite Marvel people were ripoffs of DC characters. Like there was the DC version, and then Marvel came up with the Marvel version way after the fact. I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. But no, it'll be interesting to see. And I'm not quite sure. You guys would know. Was Submariner one of those? No. It was Aquaman was first, right?
No, it was
Submariner was
okay. Like back in the day, Marvel and DC, they just always used to make like carbon copies of characters. They just saw like the fans' reaction, and he's like, all right, we're just gonna try it.
All right, we're gonna do our version.
But Submariner or Namor actually predated Aquaman by 2 years.
And I think when you look at it in totality, it's like 3-1 where Marvel has copied DC. And I just assumed Submariner was.
It's like a 2-2. Like for every 2 characters that Marvel created, DC took, and for every 2 characters that DC created, Marvel would copy. So and then some of them would just be a name issue. Look at Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, we know him now as Shazam, even though technically his name is still Captain Marvel, but it's more commonly Shazam.
Some characters just stick more in DC.
Yeah. And then some aspects some characters stick more in Marvel. You're not gonna have a Captain America that really stuck out in DC, whereas it stuck out in Marvel
at
the time. And I don't think they really have their own version of Iron Man but they do have their own aspect of the gods. With
that's Mr. Terrific.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Terrific. Let's go with that one.
And it's like, what DC just came out with their version of the Hulk recently. I forgot what the character's name is.
Oh man,
Damage?
he is nasty. Yeah, Damage is nasty, man.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I gotta check him out.
Yeah, but then like Jago pointed out too, is like Thanos was first, and Darkseid was a copy of DC's version of Thanos.
Absolutely.
But Thanos hit his notoriety first, but Darkseid still actually stood out on his own. So they were both their own unique separate entities, though they were technically clones of each other. Yep. But I think we really got out how we feel about Infinity War and really got our thoughts on it, because that was what everyone definitely wanted to hear, and we all had a lot of thoughts on it. And trust me, you guys want to be back next week, because we are going to do the full spoiler cast, full breakdown. We're going to go in depth. Everyone has every little scene stuck in their mind, and how it manifests and how we want to talk about it. But everyone's trying to bite their tongue, and I'm getting killed in the private chat over here saying, "Stop! We don't want to go into it."
Oh god! And the credit scene, I was left flabbergasted after that.
Yeah, we gotta stop.
Yeah, but trust us, guys. This is something you do want to come back for. No, there's some people who are doing it early, but we want to give everyone enough breathing room to actually see the movie.
Yes.
And then be able to come talk about it, because trust us, this group right here, we have so much knowledge about everything. You're gonna be blown away by everything. I'm telling you, you're gonna want to be back next week.
Exactly.
And make sure you stay all the way through the credits.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
Do not bail on the credits.
Yeah, it's the very, very, very end.
Yeah,
Yes.
this after credit scene is not like the others where it's like the quick credits, then the scene, and then the full credits. No, this one's after the very long credits, so it's gonna be like another 5 or 6 minutes after the movie. But wait, trust me, the 2 minutes of the credit scene that you're gonna see is definitely gonna be mandatory of what you're gonna want to know for the future. So trust us. Yeah, so we're letting you know that early warning now, that there's only one scene, but it's at the very end. Trust me, you want to see it. You want to wait. And trust me, you're going to want to be back to talk about it next week, because it's going to get you excited.
Absolutely.
And real quick before we sign up, because I know it's getting late, there's one more talk we have to cover. And I know pretty much most of the panel don't care about it, but me and Neth do. I think never left, but it's this new news we got in One Piece right now.
Oh, y'all got a new One Piece chapter out?
Yes, man. Oh my god. I know y'all don't follow it, but I'm gonna say it right now.
I gotta check it out. I'm gonna check it out.
So you don't spoil it?
No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Oh dang. Okay, man, you're gonna be blown. Okay, I can't do it now. You're gonna be blown away, man, when you see this new news.
Give us a week, and then next week, just spoil it.
Next week you'll get 5 minutes to talk about it.
I'm just gonna shout out and leave right there. I'm sorry, Neth. Can't do it here today.
Oh no, that's all sad.
Yeah.
But everyone who's in the chat, thank you for coming out and joining us and watching. It's been a great time. Thank you all for staying through. Of course, I do want to thank Moss and Avers for coming out. The links to their channel and their contact information is in the description down below. So be sure to check out their channels and subscribe to them, as well as you'll be able to catch all of us on Twitter. So from all of us here at the Smash Podcast, peace out, take it easy, and have fun.
Peace.
Go see Infinity War.
Yep. Go see it.